The oldest and strongest emotion of mankind is fear, and the oldest and strongest kind of fear is a fear of the unknown. And believe me, whatever that's behind those eyes isn't known. Until now, Art the Clown is a weirdo, straight up. And I had to analyze why he's so weird to me. And there's ultimately one fundamental thing, one conclusion I came to. Something that Art represents that makes him creepier than most people realize, and it's the reason that the small-time, low-budget franchise has taken the horror genre by storm. Besides his creepy design, which comes off more like a decrepit mime to me than a clown, which makes him freakier because mimes scare me. These guys look like they're one standard deviation away from being child predators. I just don't want them near me or any children. He looks like a gimp and a clown put together, which... people say I look like a gimp. I don't. I have no idea why they think that. I'm a vigilante. I'm Deathstroke. Art is what we call a Sigma male. That's what the young kids are calling them nowadays. Think about it. He rejects society. He rejects traditional social hierarchies in favor of doing his own thing. He's a lone wolf. He doesn't let no woman get in his way. You guys think Patrick Bateman, the Wall Street yuppie, is a Sigma? Hell no. Art the Clown is showing who the real Sigma is. Ryan Gosling who? By all traditional definitions, Art is the Sigma that a lot of young, lost men today desire to be, and that is kind of terrifying. In fact, there's one character used in a lot of Sigma male edits that Art literally has beaten very recently. Terrifier 3 has destroyed, decimated Joker 2 at the domestic box office, proving who the real clown prince of crime is. Alright? It's also beating Beetlejuice 2. Keep in mind that Terrifier had virtually no marketing behind it, while these two had a ton. And we're going to talk about Terrifier 3. Oh boy, are we going to talk about this. And it's not because the Terrifier movies are great, or even that good. These are repetitive, nonsensical, grindhouse slashers that embrace blood and gore because they know who their target audience is. Joker 2 didn't know who its target audience was, or maybe it did and it just didn't care. Terrifier is made for the gore. Specifically, this man creating the gore. Businesses that appeal to their niche the best will succeed the most. We just know this by now. Now, in terms of the characters, I compare the Joker and Art the Clown in my head. From the comics all the way to live action, these are two kinds of Joker. There's a nature Joker, and there's a nurture Joker. Stick with me here, guys. In terms of the nurture Joker, we talk about a Joker that was made by society and the social dynamics around him. And these Jokers are often seen as better villains because you can understand them, they're more relatable. But then there's the other Joker, the one that was always seemingly evil. And that's something we can't know. It's what makes him infinitely more terrifying. Now, it's possible that Art the Clown could represent both nurture and nature, to provide a justification for why he is the way he is. There's a scene in Terrifier 1 where a homeless woman holds and rocks a baby doll in place of a daughter she lost. And Art comes across her, and he grabs the doll and rocks it. And then he takes the role of a baby, sucking his thumb, acting like a child, a toddler. She holds him and asks him if he had a mom to comfort him as he's rocking in her arms. And then a few minutes later, in the most batshit scene of the film, he skins her alive and wears the skin as a suit, walking around like a woman hunting his next victim. This is a man with no remorse, no guilt, no reasonable motivation. This isn't Jigsaw, who has a philosophy he follows about the way humans are as justification for him killing and torturing people. No. One could see Art playing pretend as a baby just for shits and giggles before putting this harmless woman down, just to see what being a normal child is like because maybe he didn't have a childhood himself. Maybe he had an abusive mother that he killed, or he hated, which makes him hate the world. Maybe he had no parents and was bred in a dark, warmless environment. Or maybe he was just born this way, and the best part is, we don't know, we don't need to know. I like that his origin is ambiguous and misleading. He's like Michael Myers in a lot of ways. Initially, it was thought that Art primarily targets women, and because of this, his motivation and MO is central to women, and as we will see later, this is not the case. The scariest part about Art isn't even the way he kills, despite it being some of the most brutal kills ever put to a slasher film I've ever seen. The gore gets repetitive after a while. It's his playfulness. It's how he plays along before the kill and after. leaving you waiting in bated breath before maybe you hope that this time he'll just fuck around and then be on his way out. He won't kill that child now. Maybe he'll just kill him another time off screen. Nope. Not at all. Brutality persists. I think we need more villains like this. Unexplained, scary, small hints of what their origin could be, but nothing more. Basking in the unknown. Should art just be a normal slasher though? Terrifier 2 introduced the concept of maybe there is something supernatural at work behind art. A lot of people don't like that. Now, here's why I do like it. One, this kind of separates this trilogy from being the standard slasher trilogy. I think the supernatural element works. It doesn't over-explain anything necessarily when it comes to art himself. It does go into how the protagonists and her collective destiny might fit in with art, but it doesn't explain any of Art's backstory. Alright? We don't get mindless exposition about it. And nothing is explained to us that we already haven't guessed. The little pale girl entity is termed the demon in search of a vessel. But the vessel has to be the darkest soul available. The worst kind of person that can bridge both worlds. Our world and the world she's in. But Art is not possessed by this demon. The demon takes the form of one of Art's former victims and then proceeds to possess Victoria, another victim of Art. The demon simply guides Art and gives him supernatural powers. In Terrifier 2, Sienna's dreams are a glimpse of her divine quest, as said by the director himself, and the sword doesn't activate until she draws it and accepts her destiny, and then it is baptized in fire. So, as Art is chosen by a demon, who most likely is serving Satan, Sienna is chosen by God, or some kind of divine force, in the way that her father may have been a seer or a prophet of God, as his visions as an artist were seen in his drawings. Some theories suggest Art was invading the father's mind and giving him these visions, but I don't buy this. I think there is a connection between Art's mind and Sienna's mind, but this was because of the vision ability that she inherits from her father, and the demon knows of this prophecy too, so it guides Art to Sienna. Remember, the sword was a gift from the father, imbued with magical power, and the father knew to give Sienna this, so I don't think Art would be planting these visions in the dad's head, because that wouldn't make sense, since the sword is the only thing that could kill Art and the demon, Art effectively being the demon's chosen messiah. We'll get to that later. After she kills Art and beheads him with the sword, it shows that the demon has to go out of her way to possess Victoria in the hospital to give birth to Art from his head. The demon can be defeated by Sienna and the sword, which is what she fears. But she thinks Art is her best way to kill Sienna and take control of her body, the body of one of God's chosen messiah. This would violate a divine ruling. Not only would it save the demons from being locked back in hell, but also it would appease and impress the ones that the demons serve. Satan. Imagine this. Lucifer, the devil, sitting by, and he sees Art going on a killing spree in the first Terrifier, and probably all the kills he had before that. Remember, in Terrifier 1, Art was still a normal person, still a normal being. The devil probably looked at him and said, God damn, I don't want to fuck with that dude, but that dude is it. That guy has no chill. In fact, he's got such a lack of chill that God is choosing people now to kill him. Let's send one of my dukes of hell to go help Art and end her because she's been given an unfair advantage by my rival, God. Now, is this fantasy twist theory stupid for a B-level grindhouse slasher film? Is it too much? Maybe, but I kind of don't mind it. If we're gonna go batshit, let's go batshit. Art killing people, you kind of get desensitized to it fast. However, Art was stated to be human in the first, like I said before. He had no powers or he wasn't even aware that he had any powers to begin with, which adds something to Art's character. Keep in mind, this man was tearing through women, but taking damage, taking multiple shots, getting stabbed all over the place. And while knowing he was immortal without regeneration powers, he still kept powering through, because he just needed to get the kills. This is one crazy motherfucker, you guys. And Damien Leone himself states the entity the demon brought him back and continuously backs him. I think in this case, demon and angels, which, Sienna and Art are referred to, are just terms for people chosen by the larger cosmic entities, devil and God. The best of humanity represented by Sienna, and the worst of it represented by Art. Rather than actually being a demon himself, or Sienna being an angelic entity, One is backed by a straight-up demon, the other is backed by either the angels or God himself. And this is what makes art creepy to me, guys. With Sienna, she isn't a perfect moral being. You know, she does drugs, she parties, she does all the things that would be called sin in Catholicism, but she is innately good, and is the daughter of a father who was a prophet of sorts with these visions. These two things in totality make her worthy of the sword and chosen. She's also very attractive, but that's besides the point. Whereas Art is perfect, at least in the case of the devil. He's the perfect embodiment of evil and violence for the sake of violence sake. The devil wants him to be alive, and the demon has him as her chosen messiah for a reason. Satan's relationship to Art here is probably like Hannibal's to Will. He's too interested in the havoc that Art could wreak upon humanity. It's just something that gauges his curiosity. And now, this demon, one of the devil's dukes, has endowed Art with supernatural gifts such as immortality, being able to live years without food or water, being able to regenerate. Devil, Satan, had his demon take the perfect killer, and now has built an unstoppable killing machine. Sienna has purpose. She's chosen to defeat evil in the form of Art and the demon. In Terrifier 3, we see a vision of her sword being forged by what is seemingly a demon in hell, chained up by an angel of God or an angelic statue thing, forced to forge it in hellfire. So she's made to kill demons. And it's at a point where our main demon tries to possess Sienna at her worst and lowest point, after killing her whole family and telling her there is no God to save you. Spoiler alert for Terrifier 3, I should have mentioned that. And Sienna doesn't let her. The demon isn't able to possess her. She's just too good. She's made to kill evil. She can't be possessed. Now, what does Art represent? Evil without purpose. He isn't specifically used to kill Sienna, as he's been killing and maiming prior to her. But he does as he pleases, and the devil loves it. And because of the nature of the kills, being sadistic for no reason, the demon chooses him to go after Sienna. So from what we can gather, Art is intelligent, he has a personality, he understands social cues, he injects humor in a way that suggests he's playing with his food. And this can perfectly be shown with two kills of his that stand out. You see, ladies and gentlemen, most villains have some redeeming factor to them. A lot of slashers do too, inevitably, as the franchise goes on. There's something that explains them, or hints at them stopping their evil, or something that just explains their origin too much. And you think to yourself, maybe Art only kills adults? He wouldn't go after kids. He doesn't care to brutalize kids, too. No. Art is someone who gets worse and worse and worse with every movie. The violence escalates. From sawing a girl in half in the first movie, to brutally, and I mean brutally, simply because he didn't get his Halloween candy, poor Art destroys a woman in a bedroom. This is one of the most brutal kills I've ever seen. And some of the gore gets to the point where it's almost satirical. But this, scalping a woman, breaking her arm like a twig, skinning her, carving into her, and then pouring salt all over her wounds and keeping her alive long enough for her mom to see, before killing her mom as well. This is brutal. Alright? Now when it comes to Terrifier 3 and the trilogy itself, these are films that you don't really go there for the plot. There's a supernatural twist with demons, sure, and it makes it more interesting, but you're here for one man, and he delivers. From the opening scene of Terrifier 3 with him axing and killing an entire family with a Santa suit on, including the kids, and just simply eating cookies and milk after. He goes on a killing spree in a mall dressed up as Santa, delivering a Christmas present to a kid which happens to be a bomb that blows up and kills all the kids. He brutalizes a young couple who are banging in a shower, which was pretty funny, to be honest, because they were pretty annoying characters, and you know, he's just urinating in a stall next to them and then pulls out a chainsaw and proceeds to go off. And this girl, my god, this dude kills her, stabs her, whacks her with the saw with bad intent, cuts her in half, and then sticks his saw into the dude's anus, and then the nuts, and cuts him in half from there. It's gratuitous in a way that's kind of awesome. And the demon does help out with a lot of his killings, which at first I didn't like, but hey, what I enjoy about the way they do this is, again, they don't explain what the demon really is. They just hint at a motivation that she wants to possess Sienna, and she hates God. Obviously, as most demons too. She literally tells Sienna, no, God does not exist. He does not exist. I'm going to possess you. I just killed your whole family. You are losing faith. Let me possess you. The demon is just as sadistic and nihilistic as Art, that is the perfect pairing. I like this, but in that case still, art does most of the killing. With Longlegs, a movie that's very... I'm not trying to compare Longlegs to the Terrifier series. They're completely different movies. But one thing I didn't like about Longlegs is it got really convoluted to the end. This perfectly terrifying serial killer... Well, at least we think he's a serial killer. Who... You could have made an entire movie just of him being a normal slasher, being a child killer at the same time, for a satanic purpose. Instead, they say, no, he just makes dolls, and he puts black magic in them and puts the devil's essence into the dolls, and then he has a nun take the dolls to the family homes, and then the dolls have a devil influence and kills the families and causes the fathers to murder their entire families, and blah, 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 blah. It gets nonsensical and convoluted. Just have this freak be the killer. That would have been way more scary to me. Now, Terrifier, thankfully, still retains Art as the main killer, who has mystery behind him. He has an aura, you know? And, again, him and the demon's motivations are unclear. The only thing we know is the demon Victoria gets off on violence just as much as Art does, and she wants to possess one of God's chosen ones just to spite God, showing me that she does work for Satan. And I will say, towards the end of Terrifier 3, at this point, Art and the demon have gotten so many W's. They've been killing so many people. They've gotten everything they wanted. They can't lose. And Sienna is brought to her lowest point, to the point where she has to watch her loved ones get killed. She has to watch a family friend or sister, I don't know who, get rats shoved down her throat by Art. To the point of she just suffocates and dies. She sees her brother's freaking cut off head burnt in front of her. You are rooting for Sienna at the end to finally get something over on Art. You just want to see the demon and Art take one L, because they're unstoppable throughout the entire movie. And she does end up killing the demon, and then the demon's blood ends up opening a portal to hell, which drags the poor kid Gabby into hell. So the movie does end on kind of a sour, dreary note, because Art still ends up escaping, and Sienna's left with... Still, she's looked at as a crazy in her town because she was put in a psychiatric facility after the events of Terrifier 2. No one believes her, and her whole family's just died. And the demon's dead, but Art's still alive. Now, the Art has lost his last line of defense in the demon, but Sienna has the sword, and it gives her regeneration abilities. So now we get Terrifier 4, I guess, which will show Sienna surrounded by a bunch of dead bodies. Probably she'll be on the run by the police because no one's going to believe that Art and a demon came and killed all of them. And it's going to be her and Art. And I'm hoping that Art... I'm assuming that Terrifier 4 is the last one. I'm pretty sure I heard it was the last one. And Art will meet his end at the hands of Sienna. But Sienna had to lose a lot to get to this point. And I'm excited to see how Art finally dies. And I'm going to say this. Maybe because the demon can't hold the fort now. Maybe the devil will have to come into play. I don't know. And save his most impressive prospect. But I will say this. Art, one of the reasons he's become so iconic is because he is made to be the manifestation of pure, unbridled evil. Evil without purpose. And because of that unknown reasoning behind these dead eyes of his, we are terrified of him. We are terrified of him. And that's why we're drawn to him. He represents something that shouldn't exist. A paradoxical enigma. A man who can act as charismatically comedic and harmless, and then become the most savage individual that one could ever meet. A beast of nature. Art the Clown. We need more villains like this.